Hi, I'm Wanda with Jimmy Branch Homestead, and today I'm going to be making apple butter, or at least I'm starting it today. So I have 18 pounds of apples sitting here in my sink, and I will need to peel and at least quarter all of those, and so I have a lot of work ahead of me. So I'm going to go ahead and get these peeled and cut up, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so I have half of the apples chopped up now and in the roaster to get them out of my way so that I can chop more. And I'm making a double batch, so a single batch takes 8 to 10 pounds of apples, and I had 20 pounds here. So each batch would take 3/4 of a cup of apple juice, grape juice, or water. I'm going to add apple juice since I had it from a leftover from a project. So that is 1.5 cups of apple juice. And I'm going to go ahead and chop up the other apples, and then I will be back to add the other ingredients. Okay, last apple of my 20 pounds for this project. These apple peelers and tools save me so much time. I still have to sometimes trim them up. Doesn't always get 100%, but it's still a great time saver. And my other tool takes out the core and cuts them into 8 pieces all at the same time. So, again, great time saver. Cut out the very core. Let's see. Oops. Okay, I'll get the apples into the roaster and then we'll add the other ingredients. And I want to drain them off pretty well because I have that apple juice in there. I don't want a lot of extra liquid to have to cook off. So I love this extra large roaster my mother-in-law gave to me because my roasters were not deep enough to do this big a batch. I like doing a double batch. If I'm going to make the mess, I might as well try and get it done. Plus I had bought 2.5 bushels of apples, so I have a lot to get done. Okay, I have all the apples into the roaster now, and we're going to add the other ingredients. So to start off with, it is 2 teaspoons of salt per batch. So I'm doing a double batch, that's 4. Okay. And next is the cloves. And we need 1.5 teaspoons of that. And that's for a double batch. It's 3/4 teaspoon for a single batch. And you can adjust any of these spices if there's something you don't care for, you like it stronger. Oops, half on this one. And 3 teaspoons of nutmeg. That's 1.5 per batch. And, oops, 1 tablespoon of vanilla times 2. Let's see, wait a minute. I think there was some cinnamon. So let me do the cinnamon first. So I need 1 tablespoon per, take the lid off. 1 teaspoon per batch. Tablespoon, what did I say? Anyway, 1 tablespoon per batch of the cinnamon. So, okay. And 1 tablespoon per batch of vanilla. Oops, this is a new bottle, I haven't even opened it. Oh yeah, you have. Used it once. This is why apple butter turns so dark, all these dark spices. And 1 pound per batch of brown sugar, so that's 2 pounds I need. I have a brand new 2-pound bag, so I'm not even going to bother measuring that out. And 2 cups per batch of white sugar, granulated sugar. So I have 4 cups I've pre-measured out. And that is all of the ingredients. So now, I'm going to try and mix these in a little bit. It'll be easier once they start to cook down more. Ones on the bottom are starting to soften. And it looks like I've added water to it, but I haven't. Just that little bit of juice. It's just the juice cooking out of the apples. I'm going to let this cook down a little bit more, and then I'll come back and stir it in better. It's just kind of hard with the apples so firm. And this will need to cook for a total of 8 to 10 hours. But I have the apples mixed up now, and I just wanted to show you how much juice there is in that, and that's just the juice from the apples cooking in. They've got a long way to go, but you can, oh, I wish I had smell-o-vision, because you can really smell that cinnamon and cloves and one of my favorites is raspberry jam. This is my husband's favorite, apple butter. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to keep cooking it down, and then I'll come back with you once it's cooked down, and I'm going to show you the next steps. Well, it is the next day, and I just cooked this overnight on low, about 175. Yeah, about 175, and it came out perfect this morning. As you can see, my apples reduced by half. So the apples put out a lot of juice when they're cooking, and then the added sugars made a lot of juice, so it really had to cook down. So you can see it's still pretty chunky. So at this point, I'm going to use my immersion blender to break those apples up. You want it chopped up is up to you. We like it fairly smooth, but you can leave a few little chunks. You just don't want the great big chunks in it. If you want it thicker, you need to continue to cook it down. Like I say, the recipe calls for 8 to 10 hours, and I cooked it probably 4 hours before I went to bed. And then, so it's been cooking 12, 13, 14, 15, about 18 hours. So twice what it called for. Sometimes I pour this into a bowl with a spout and do it in there. It's a little less messy. It's already spattered me a couple times. So I need to try and keep this below the surface so it doesn't spatter. Again, the reason this is so dark is because of all the spices. You know, the brown sugar, the cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg. I have enough apples. I'm probably going to have to make at least one more batch of the apple butter, but I also have some other projects getting ready to go on. So keep an eye out for those. And that was just this one kind of apple. I have another, I'm probably going to do another of the apple pie filling. If you haven't seen that, go back and check out our playlist. 2 jars left from last year, and I've already used one of them. So now I have 1.5 pint jar left of the apple pie filling from last year, so it's definitely something I use. I don't use it often, but when I do, I use quite a bit of it. And I only have 6 quarts that I put back on the shelf from this year, so I definitely will need to can more of that. And we'll see how many pints I get out of this. Can't remember how many I usually get, but I definitely made a bigger batch than normal because I knew I had so many apples I had to use. I'm hoping to get a couple canners full, but I don't know. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll show you up close in a minute. I want to get this off and in the sink. Okay. Because when that stuff dries up and hardens on there with all that sugar, it gets pretty hard and makes a mess. Okay, let's put this to the side. Okay, so you can see it has a little bit of small chunks in it, but it is pretty smooth. Just kind of look at all that goodness. Wish you guys could smell in here. So at this time I have my jar set up, ready to go. Oops. My canner is heating on the stove. So I think I'll go ahead and put the jars actually on a cookie sheet and warm them up in the oven. And once the canner is hot, we'll be ready to rock and roll. So we are going to hot pack everything today. The product is hot, the canner will be hot, and I have my jars warming in the oven. Oops, I don't think you can even see that. There we go. And then I will take them out just 1 or 2 at a time to fill them so that they will stay hot and I won't break any jars by putting the hot product in a cold jar. So I have increased the heat to 300 and kept the lid off to help evaporate some of the condensation and some of the liquid out of this apple butter. He likes it thicker, but it's hard, you know, when it cooks down, it's still not. Oh, there's a big apple. We'll squish it. It's still not real thick for spooning on a piece of toast. Okay, so my jars are hot and everything is boiling. So I just find it easier to dip into this container and pour it into my jars. So that's what I'm going to do. A little less messy. Yes, I'm handling it twice, but I'm only dipping once, so. So I am going to take out a few jars, probably 3 it looks like, at a time. did have a longer tongs with the rubber, silicone rubber on it, but they broke, so I'm having to use my short ones. Haven't got around to replacing the others yet. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. I think so. Okay, so I am just going to pour this into the jars. Oops. Well, that didn't really save me a mess. Thought it would. I don't know why that ran down so bad. Okay, so we are going to fill to 1/4 to 1/2 inch headspace. I know it says 1/4, but that usually is, I don't know, I find too much seepage. So I feel a little more comfortable with closer to 3/8 or 1/2. Just making a mess all the way around. Okay, one of my jars at least has a good bit of mess on the outside. I need to clean that up, and then I'll use the regular cleanup. Okay, I got the biggest part. Okay, so I'm going to clean the top and the edge where the ring goes, because that would make the ring stick on there. And we don't want to cause any seepage or not sealing. So we want to make sure that's cleaned up good. Yeah, only that one was messy, really. But I'd rather make sure. Put on a new lid. And I am using the Superb canning lids. I get these from Azure Standard. And I buy them 3 boxes at a time to get a price break. You can buy even larger quantities and get a better deal yet. I just haven't been able to afford to do that. I try to buy canning lids in jars each time I order. But that's not always possible. Okay, we're going to get some rings on these puppies. My asthma's screaming today. And we're just tightening these to finger tight. So I'm going to do it and then just a little bit more to snug it. Not too much. Where'd my jar lifter go? Oh, there it is. And I'm going to set these in the tray here, getting them ready to go in. And we're going to grab some more jars out of the oven. Okay, let's see. Just remembered my canner holds 8 and I only got 7 in the oven, so I'm going to grab one more to put in there. And we're just cleaning these up with a paper towel and vinegar is what I'm using. Oh, I got 3 in my hand. Okay, I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit now that it's getting much lower in the pan. In fact, I'll turn it back down to 200. Okay, canner is loaded. So we are going to get hot pads and lower this down. Oops, way more than an inch over. Guess I'll scoop some of that out. Okay, so the water needs to return to a boil, which is going to be pretty close, it looks like. And then I'll time it for 10 minutes. Okay, well that made just as much of a mess using that pitcher as using the ladle. So I've cleaned up my workspace again, put a clean canning towel down. I'm using a plate instead of my spoon holder for these things to help keep that apple butter off the counter. And I think that will work much better. So our water is back to a full boil. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for 10 minutes. So in the meantime, I only have 4 minutes left on the canner, but I had to run out and get some more jars, clean them, and get them in the oven to warm up for the next batch. I don't know how many jars this will fill, if it will fill a whole load or not. I'm hoping it will, but I have a feeling it won't. I don't know, it's going to be pretty close. So I did put 8 jars in the oven, and then we will see what we have left, or how far we could go. Okay, the timer is going off. I'm going to go ahead and turn the burner off. And I'm not going to let this cool down too much because I want to put another load right in. So I'm going to get these out. With it being fall time, if you have the windows open and it's got a cold breeze, remember to close those so you don't break your jars. I have one barely open to allow some of the heat to release from canning. I usually can with regular mouth for my apple butter, but I had enough for a full load of wide mouth in the house clean that we just recently emptied. So that's why these are wide mouth. Next batch will be regular mouth. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. Let's see. To bring it back up to a boil. And in the meantime, we are going to attempt to get these other jars filled. Okay, let's see. This might not be working either due to lack of room. I have a pretty good sized kitchen and lots of counter space, but it's all taken up with processing equipment and stuff like that. So I'll just set these to the side over here, I guess. Gonna go ahead and grab out some jars. Oh, there's one of them sealed. I guess I'll just do 3 at a time or so. Okay, we'll see if we can make any less mess. Love to hear that sound. Oops, I forgot to bring it back around so you can see what's going on. Sure, can you see that? I guess you can. Yeah, we're not going to get a full canner this time. I was hoping so, but doesn't look like it. I would have got a little bit more if I wouldn't have cooked it down so much. But I like to cook it down more so that it's a little thicker. I know some books say to process for only 5 minutes. Some say 10 minutes, some say 15. So I like to do in the middle and do 10. 5, I sometimes have issues with not sealing if I didn't boil the lids. But 10 minutes I can avoid boiling the lids and just put them in there, and I usually have no problem. Okay, get this cleaned up. I've moved to the regular lids on these jars. That's what I have in the house. I had to go out and get a couple more. But a friend of mine, Janice, over at Ozark Family Homestead, told me about this great trick. This is a 1.5-pint jar, and it holds, I think, 3 dozen, maybe more. I'll have to, I can't remember, lids. So it's great storage for lids. It might be more like 5 now that I'm thinking about it, height-wise. Okay, so let's get these capped up here. Again, I'm using superb canning lids from Azure Standard. I've just had really good luck with these lids. I was having some trouble with some of the ball lids. I'd used most of my lids, and what I had left, I think, was what I bought during the pandemic. And so that may be why, because it seemed like they had some quality issues during that time. Okay, it's back to boiling. So I am going to pull the rack up and stage these in there. Right now I am moving them around so they're not all directly against each other. I'll get 2 out, but I don't think I have enough to fill 2. Let's see what we can script together here. Let me turn this off. Oops. All right. you to the other side. So you can see better. I maybe should have had you over here earlier, huh? Okay, let's see what we can do. Oh, I don't even know that I'll get a full one. If not, that'll be just when he gets to eat. Let's see if we can scrape that in. Oh yeah, we'll be able to get this one. But the second one won't be filled. Might have to get a non-slatted spoon to get that last little bit out. Well, I didn't get quite as much as I was hoping for. So that got me 8, 10, 12, about 12 and a half pints. And that was 20 pounds of apples. So it takes a lot of apples to make apple butter. And that's one of the reasons that I do a double batch if I have enough apples. Because a single batch is only, you know, between 5 or 6. Okay. Let me get this other one capped and we'll get it in the canner. This is one of the old mason jars. It's very heavy. It does have a square shape to it, but it has measurements on the side too. I like it just because it's so, it's heavy. I don't have to worry about it breaking. Oops, there's a little sauce on there that didn't come off. I think my vinegar dried here. More on. Oh yeah, clean that right off. Cap on. And a ring. So we're going to get these last 4 jars processed and then I'll be back with you. So just look at that deep, rich color. So excited to be putting this back on the pantry shelf. We were down to our last 3 jars, and as I mentioned earlier, it is Wade's favorite. So he will be just as happy to see this going back on the pantry shelf. So if you're enjoying this type of video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our videos on your social media. It's the best way you can help our channel to grow. Thank you so much for watching Jimmy Branch Homestead. Take care and God bless.